Okay, hey, thanks for joining us today and joining this episode. We are going to be showing you how to put in new flooring in your bathroom today. We have a bathroom and a mudroom that we're doing. And we're going to be using this. We got this from Costco. It's sandalwood. That's the color, the style. It's right here. Here's what I like about it. I like the grain on it, the pad underneath it, so it's soft on your feet. And it's not going to be hard like tile, so it won't be, and it also won't be brittle like tile. This is 100% waterproof, so you don't have to worry about it warping if water gets in it. So come in here and let's show you the space that we're working with in here. We've already removed the previous flooring, which was linoleum. We've already taken that out. We've already removed the toilet. So now we're going to start by laying this in here. The first thing we have to do is have our first piece. It's going to go this way. We have to cut the first piece for right here because this lip is where the rest of them are going to connect into. So the first cut is going to leave this way, and then we'll build the rest of the flooring out. So that'll be how we start. All right, so if you remove the trim, you totally can. We decided not to this time though, just for the ease of the project. And instead we cut underneath it. So this will slide underneath and then we'll put the other trim back up. Right now on this side, you can see we haven't cut it yet. So the way we're going to cut it is with this multi-tool. It's from Milwaukee. It's an oscillating tool. It works really well, and it just oscillates back and forth. Look, we even have some teeth missing. Not even a problem. Let me show you how fast this will cut. Make sure to put ear protection in and eye protection, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. Now you can see how that fits underneath the trim. Okay, so instead of cutting a small piece to run here, we're going to cut out on the right and left side of the door this distance, and then this board will slide in and fit this entire way. So to find out how much we need to cut off of the sides here, we're going to measure this. And I like to, instead of using the end of the tape measure and have to worry about if this is open or closed like that, I like to move it to the 10 inches so I can see exact and then start measuring. And you'll notice that there's a lip right here, 1 inch in. We don't want to measure to that, because it needs to connect and overlap to here. So we're actually going to go in 1 inch and 1/8. And we're cutting that off of the two sides. So this is just a good rule of thumb to use when you're using a tape measure and you need an exact measurement. Just start it at 10 inches, and then instead of this being 11, that's just your first inch. So that's how we got 1 inch and 1/8. All right, so let's go out there and make our first cut. All right, so we have our first board here. And we've already cut in the 1 inch and 1/8 with the oscillating tool, the multi-tool. And then we're just going to finish by cutting this straight line with the table saw. Make sure to put your ear protection on and your eye protection on. And then we have the same cut ready on the other side. I'm just going to flip it over. It's already ready. Okay, now let's take it back into the bathroom where we're going to use it. All right, so you might be wondering why we used a full piece in the middle of the door instead of having like the full piece up against the wall and then having the next full piece here. The reason is we didn't want a seam in the first step in the doorway. It's not required, but that's just our preference. it seems like it's a cleaner entryway into the bathroom. So it might be a little bit more work up front. I don't think so. I think it's worth the extra work. So now that we have this, you can slide this in place. You can see it looks really good. Really, it's perfectly flush there. All right, so one thing I didn't mention earlier that I like about these, this type of laminate flooring is it's a floating floor. So you don't put any glue on the underlayment or any adhesive. This will just float here. The whole floor will just be floating, and the benefit of that is it's a lot easier to install. It's just piece by piece. So now that we have this piece the way that we want it, we have to measure for against this wall. Let's move the camera angle a little bit. And you'll see that now we need this piece to come here. All right, so this will be our first piece. Even though we cut this one first, we'll start here, and then we'll have the seam never be in the same place between two boards. And then after this is finished, we are going to reinstall the trim that we took off. We're just going to use the same trim, and you'll notice that even though there's the crack there, that's okay because the trim will cover it. So you'll be able to see here that it's completely covered by the trim. So you don't have to get it perfectly up against the wall. We left about 1/8 of an inch, and that'll be totally fine. All right, so now we're ready to put this together. When you put the first pieces together and they connect end to end with this style, you'll just set them on top of each other. And you'll notice that it's not perfectly tight and secured yet. That's okay. When the next piece comes in here and locks in this way, it'll hold the whole thing down. There are some styles of this laminate flooring where you have to kind of go in at an angle and then lay it down, but not this type. Other things you'll want to know, there are some shims that you may need because your drywall may not be straight, and you'll want to make sure that your floor is completely straight all the time. Now remember, you need to have this swept and vacuumed because you don't want any debris to be underneath the floor. That'll cause it to be uneven. So let's get our board here. We're sliding it under. Oops. Okay, this looks good. All right, so you'll notice that right here, the board is not flush yet. You can tell that it's not quite even. So you'll want to put in, there's a couple of different types of shims that you may have. This one will just go as far down until it meets the requirement. Others, there are this kind where let's say you need to be off at 1/4 of an inch, then this will allow you to be offset exactly at 1/4 of an inch. And then flip it around the other way if you had a 1/2 inch. Okay, so just be aware that you'll want to make sure that these are here just to make sure your floor is completely straight so that every row will lock in completely. Otherwise, the floor will come apart at the seams later, which you want to avoid.